Welcome again, everybody, and thank you for joining the Infosim Global Webinar Day. Our topic today is how can you benefit as a managed service provider from StableNet? My name is Dietmar Kneidl, Director of Sales Europe with Infosim, and I will be your moderator for today's event. Joining us from his office in Munich, Germany is my colleague Peter Moessbauer, our Strategic Alliances Manager. Good afternoon, Peter. Welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, Dietmar.
So Peter is going to take us through the presentation today, but before I hand over to him, I got a couple of household items I'd like to inform you about. So all of you are automatically muted to keep down the background noise. If you would like to have ask a question, please type that question in the window at the bottom of the GoToWebinar application. We're going to be taking care of all your questions either directly in the chat during the webinar or at the end in our Q&A session. Also, please be aware that we're going to record this event and all of you will be notified tomorrow with an email on how to access that recording. And finally, since we're giving away 3 Amazon gift cards on this Global Webinar Day again, I advise you to answer the trivia question that is going to be part of a short questionnaire you will be presented with when leaving today's webinar. So in order to join this draw, please answer the question. That's all from my side so far. So I'd like to go ahead, turn things over to our presenter, Peter Moessbauer. Peter, are you ready?
Of course, Dietmar. So thank you very much for that pleasant introduction. So let's just jump in. I will take you today through the basically well-known hidden secrets of MSP service operation and all the challenges and how they can be handled. So that's me, of course, many years in telco business and so for very large telcos, and so I'm happy to share some experience on that. For that, I have grouped the today's session via the way you normally have to approach things in that environment. So, and I will show you, give you a good indication why. First, I will go through the technical aspects, then the operation and how to make your life easy by running such services, and of course the commercial aspects, as everybody wants or needs to make money on that. So let's have a look first at the technical aspects. The first thing when you go into MSP operations, well, many will know, but the first question you usually get from customers is, they say, before you start talking about the solution, about your technology, whatever, can you address the security? How do you handle that? And if you say, yes, we can handle that, then you can keep on planning. If you say, no idea about security, whatever, this is the worst case, then the discussion would be stopping immediately. Yeah. So enterprise and these customers are very security focused. They need to, and therefore the solution must take care about that. Some quick words about that. Where are basically the tricky parts about and which need to be covered. When you look at typical architecture, then the architecture requires to have agents in the customer domain, a central management usually, as you want to run MSP services, and of course you have to provide information to the customer and the MSP clients. It can be also Saas client. It's quite similar on that. The commercial models might be a bit different, but from the technology, it's very, very similar. In terms of management, of course. And why that? Because when you look at that, management in a domain is sitting directly in the customer domain, and you have a management system, you have all sorts of management interfaces. That can be SNMP version 1, 2, 3, that can be a CLI access, this can be a WMI, a Windows system access, it can be some database access, all sorts of different things. So many interfaces, mainly IP ports, and of course you don't want to enable all that IP ports on a firewall. You could do if you want, but it will be a stressy life as an MSP. The customer won't be excited. So usually the best approach is to use an agent there And I take Infosim StableNet Telco as a good example because it supports all that requirements. So that makes it easy for me here to talk. And that is on the top of the agent, the northbound interface, you have a single IP port which you can easily control via a firewall, and you can also, the traffic here is encrypted. Also, it's ensured that if the link fails, that the data is not lost. And that brings me to the point, data security and integrity. These connection here from a customer or a client to a central system is going usually via a public network. It could be even public internet, it can be layer 2, layer 3 VPNs, whatever you have, but it needs to be encrypted, the data needs to be kept, the integrity needs to be kept, and once the data is captured here on the agent, it's monitored and reported, whatever, then it needs to be secured in the database. Just to give you a quick example about that, one worst scenario for an MSP is if they lose their SLA data, service level agreement data, because usually you do your accounting on that. You're billing with the customer. Usually every 3 months, every quarter, you have a meeting with the customer and you put the data on the table, what happened, what went, okay, and you have to prove your operations, and if you have gaps in there, customer might not pay for that. So it's absolutely critical to keep the data and the integrity here. Also, in an enterprise environment, the data, of course, has to stay within the enterprise. So to give you an example, if on airlines, Lufthansa, British Airways, Singapore Airlines, Emirates, United, I'm pretty sure they don't want to share their enterprise data, and not on that level. And so it's critical that this is insulated from each other, and that can be done via that architecture very well. Also, to provide access to for the clients to management reports, to service dashboards, or so, you put firewalls in place, you put a portal server up, and so on. Also, this data must be, of course, encrypted, the access must be authenticated, all the security mechanisms must be in place. It's really a prerequisite. Without that, you can't really even offer and sell a solution in a proper way. For the implementation of such a solution, it does mean basically, as expressed, you need one agent per customer domain, so at least one. An agent can handle a lot of devices in terms of StableNet. It can be 4,000, 6,000 devices, whatever. Depends, of course, on the devices, what you have in there, what you monitor on, and to monitor, build your services monitoring on. If you need to put more devices into a customer, it's possible, of course, but at least the critical element is put one agent into the customer domain, and don't try to run it across a firewall from a central system. Technically and theoretically, it's possible. From my experience with practical operations, you sleep better if you do it that way, because you can. It's very controlled, very secure. You don't have to open many ports on the firewall. So also what needs to be taken care about is, of course, multi-tenancy support. So clients can use the same IP address ranges, so this can collide with other customers. The system must be capable of. Then it must be capable of supporting small offices like bank offices. I will address that later on. And of course, role-based information. So you need information dedicated for the client, for a specific client, for multi-clients, whatever. You need role-based information for operations staff and for the management, of course. And everybody needs a different type of information, and nobody wants to be overflooded or loaded with unnecessary information. And also you have to, of course, transport that information in a secure way to your customers. What is key for success is you need to document your services quality. Many IT departments, they complain they are not really they don't get the attention from big management as they would need, and but of course they have to prove it. If they show what they provide, what they do, also if they show what trends they are happening or coming up, like we see that we will run out with that customer in whatever 3 weeks out of bandwidth, or 3 months or whatever, and everybody can take that information to the decision makers to say, okay, we need this, please offer that to your customer or our customer, and then you can prove it, you can document it, you have figures, and this looks very professional to the own company management, and also very professional to the customer, because investments can be right-sized. About the architecture itself, as I will go a little bit more in detail, so when we come to this structure, then you would put at least one domain agent in a client. So could be a cloud, it could be a network, it could be used for end-to-end monitoring. Within StableNet, these agents are full-blown management systems. They can all do all their tasks. And also it's possible, if you have a lot of small offices, to put a bigger server agent, or like this 19-inch rack system in there. So it's a standard server system. Then you could, in a small office, it would be commercial overkill, also for the MSP. But we have the option to put in these small StableNet embedded agents. They are Banana Pi based. They can't handle as much as the big agents, of course, by the physical platform, but 100, 200 devices, a couple of end-to-end service calls per minute or per second, depending on what you do, and you can discover devices. So they also have basically the full functional capability of a big agent. Just keep in mind the small devices, but of course they are very cost efficient to deploy to a large number of offices, and then you have all under control from the central system, and you can share all that information, dedicated information, of course, for your customers. So Lufthansa gets the Lufthansa information, Air France the Air France, Singapore Airlines that, and Emirates that information. So it can be multiple more, of course, but just as an example to visualize it. Then what can be managed? Well, many things, from the classical networks down to or across systems, servers, virtual systems. You can get all of that in. It depends on what you want to offer to the customer. You could even go down to printers and monitor that if this is a requirement, and sometimes customers do ask for that. But coming up to the top is services. Nobody is really running just systems and networks for the good sake. They're running it to offer services on and run services. If it's internal company service, if it's external, if it's going via clouds, whatever service. So it's absolutely key that also services can be monitored, not just devices. Many management systems can work nicely on devices, but to model services could be a very tricky issue. In StableNet, it's lucky there's a smart design, a consistent design to also allow that. Coming by that to the operational aspects. So if you run the systems, there are many things to make life complicated, and one typical approach is management systems have been grown over time. For every new service, for every new application, whatever, a new management system was brought in place, and it all end up with a zoo of management systems. Very unhealthy for the life of or the sake of the operators. So the key element is to be able to do cross-silo management and basically reduce the zoo of management systems. So cross-silo means you can work from networks across servers, systems, virtual systems, applications, up to even integrating business processes and monitoring on that. And then also it's important not to just put parallel systems in place, especially as an MSP and a Saas operation. You need consistent systems because you have multiple customers, you also have, as an MSP, limited resources, and they must be used as efficient as possible. These are very smart people, but of course you can spoil them and you can load things on them. If you have multiple separate systems, they have to do a tedious integration in their head about the operations, and if the system supports fault, performance, root cause in one consistent model, might be even add-on network configuration, change management. This makes the operation and also the professional impression to the clients much, much better. And I could tell a lot of stories on when we showed that to customers, that we did win a lot of business as operators, from my past life, of course. So then management of service, of course, is key, not just devices. I mentioned that before. And the management automation is key. Rather than doing things manually, it's important that you can automate it. And so, of course, you are selling as an MSP, and also for MSP or Saas services, you're selling certain services, and of course you want only to manage what you have sold, not all the things which might be out in the network, down to printers, whatever. So the managed discovery must be configurable, so you really set that up to discover what you have sold, and also then automatically start on monitoring as far as possible on that. You really to make the standard efforts for the team as easy and as low as possible, but to provide as quickly as possible the service to the customer. You can always do individual things on top, and the customer will pay for that, but the standard things should be as far as possible out of the box. Then, of course, that also ties to SLA and OLA, as service level agreements and operation level agreements. Key is to reduce the time from detecting things to fixing issues. If the root cause tells you within 1 or 2 minutes what is the problem, the pinpoints down to the problem, then you can fix it very quickly, and you can also respond to all the people who are asking online as well, what is the problem, how long will it take to fix, things like that. But also it's possible to trend things, if you have time to SLA, time to disk full, then it will make it easier. And so when you run this operation, of course, you would like to see the key things. Key things means service dashboards. So a service dashboard, for instance, for management, just gives an overview about the sold things, the running operation. It does not show the details, but of course, if you detect a red spot, the management will ask, what is there? Can I drill into down in the details? I want to see what is the issue, who is affected. Is somebody working on that already, and in case it's fixed, how long did it take, and what was the issue, that you have a professional answer also to the customers. Then of course event flooding doesn't help anybody. You need to keep it to a sensible level, so the system must support it. StableNet really has a very efficient state machine in there, so alarm can't get redder than red, and it will be the root cause normally, and that will indicate you and pinpoint you to just that. Then why, as I said, why waiting for a problem? If you have trending in there, like trend indications can show you time to SLA, or time to a capacity issue, time to out of bandwidth, time to disk full, something like that. If you know that in advance, you can react early about that. And you can also take this information to the decision makers to say, okay, we need to fix something here, or we need to invest, and that information can be also transported to the customer, because the customer will be very pleased about that you provide this information that they can react on. For instance, if business is very successful, systems will start to load, but it would be good to know where to invest to keep the business on growing. And of course you need the information wherever and whenever you need it. Everybody knows in the past we had maintenance windows. Nowadays there is no maintenance windows anymore, basically, and you need to have this information mainly everywhere available and make it easy to have it available. And we have also developed a web and mobile application. Here I'm showing that on an iPhone, and to make it visualize, and so technical people can go out to the customer, they can look on site, is it okay again, where's the customer, look it on the map, get all that information, do a quick analysis or so, which will help on the visibility of the service.
Peter, maybe
yeah.
if I may interrupt you briefly, just to let our audience know that we've also have done a webinar on the StableNet mobile app you just mentioned. I'm gonna quickly pass something in the chat here. So we have a recording of this respective webinar online. If you're interested solely or especially in the mobile app, you can of course watch a recording of this webinar. And we're also planning, since there is a couple of more new infos regarding the mobile app available, we're probably going to do another global webinar day on this topic. It's either going to be December, January, or maybe even in February. But just make sure you're on our mailing list so you get an invite to that. But before that, you can always, of course, watch the recording of the webinar we did in late June this year.
Yeah, Dietmar, thanks very much for highlighting this. I can really recommend it. Everybody who looked at that mobile app, they were quite excited about, and it's the question, is this just a Photoshop or an image? No, it's real life. You can use it. So that's a great thing. And that brings me back to visualization. Stay on top of your service. Absolutely key that from the dashboard, an overview here. I hope your network doesn't look like that. It's a sparkled red, but this is just an example. And you can go down into a detailed analysis, look at the things you need. This can be, of course, customized and adapted to the dedicated users. And, of course, last but not least, never forget to document the service quality, because that brings the success to the department, the visibility, and also the success in the market to be professional. Coming to the commercial aspects, of course, we're all in a professional business. Things need to be offered, need to be contracted, need to be paid. We're making money on that, of course, no surprise. And so I got frequently asked about, but you have nice solutions with StableNet Telco. We can do all of that. It can be for use for MSP perfectly. It can be used for Saas in a very good way. But how do you define the services? Well, there are some good approaches which are very proven. You can define things like a basic service, advanced package, some call it a silver package, some call it a gold service, or you also have an individual package. So basically, like I give an example here, you do remote fault monitoring in a basic package, and you define what is in there. The advanced package might contain also performance monitoring, and of course there's an individual package always there for customers. They say we need a normal package, but our organization is totally different from all the things in the rest of the world. Everybody, I think, has known or gets known to such customers and users, and you can also address that in a commercial way and define that and make that definitions. And you also have, of course, to define how does the commercial model look like. I picked the example on a Saas model here, where you have an agent deployment. Of course, this has to go into the customer network as a prerequisite. Then there will be a setup fee which you have to charge on to get this thing deployed and rolled out, and then there can be a monthly fee and a service type fee, like defining, doing licensing, for instance, on a Saas model, license per network type elements, server type elements, end-to-end services, VoIP end-to-end measurements, and of course individual solution packages. Something like that works very well, and you need to define, of course, what do you deliver for a service fee, what money the customer pays money, what do they get for basically, and how is the monthly fee calculated, and what is a device in this term, and what is a network device, what is a server, and what is it not, and so you can define that in a very easy way. We have prepared a document on that which outlines that models in detail, also gives examples how a service could be offered. So it's not just an info about the StableNet solution, it's also how that can be deployed and can be accounted on. And then, of course, if you run a service, and offer that first. There are two basic approaches. The classical approach is you sell a perpetual software licenses basically on StableNet and some scaling element, you know, so the more you measure, okay, you scale for that. And some functional packages, or you do a Saas model where you have a setup fee and a license per device on a monthly base. On Saas, I recommend to keep it simple because it makes, if you make it too much complicated, then you have to handle that every month. And StableNet, but StableNet can help you on that. So in StableNet, when you discover things in StableNet, it's based on that. It's possible to automate even the accounting report for Saas. So I took a customer example on here, the name I took out, of course, of the customer, and there's a number of VoIP systems, and actually they didn't have VoIP, but they have servers in here in this reporting, and you can get a nice report on that. Of course, you can go in and modify that to your requirements, you know, and this report will be then automatically generated by StableNet Telco, which ties into my recommendation: make the life easy for the people, you know, and you use your experts for the complicated things, not just for the always repeated tasks. So StableNet for automation, this is really great.
Just one tiny comment, Peter, if I may. First of all, I'm going to squeeze in a question, and the question is going to include the answer. So one of our attendees wanted to know if those reports you were just showing, maybe you're going to jump one slide back, if those reports showing these are, well, typically StableNet branded reports because they're taken from our demo system. But these reports can, of course, be completely customized, so they can have your logo on. Your company CI can be applied to those reports, so that should not be a problem. The other thing I wanted to mention is that I have uploaded the document you were referring to. We have put together a document about the MSP Saas business cases, which is available now in the handout section of the GoToWebinar application. So if you search your GoToWebinar panel for the handout sections, you can download two PDFs right now, which one is the MSP Saas business model, which Peter already mentioned. I've also added one of our solution briefs that you could usually download from our website. I've added that solution brief about managed services. So I've added that to the download section as well. And there's an additional question about pricing. So basically, how can I make money out of that if I pay like a certain amount per device for StableNet? Will I be able to charge to the end customer? These questions typically are being discussed in these documents. So the document doesn't have prices in them, but we're of course happy to discuss that with you. And from my experience, Peter has already dealt with a number of customers in this area. Peter is happy to help you in order to find the right pricing for your customers.
Yeah, Dietmar, thanks very much about pricing. We did also analysis with our partners on market prices. So, of course, we have charge out rates for their prices, but they will enable you to be competitive on the market. So we're taking care about that. That is also important. You have a market price, not just a solution, and this must be competitive. So there's a great solution with StableNet Telco behind, and also a good price model which can be offered. Yeah, coming to the final wrap-up, of course, there are also, when you go out in the field, basically two areas, 5 key benefits for the customer. What does the customer have of such a solution? Why is it good for them? Well, the first thing, of course, fairly straightforward. If you as an MSP offer that service, you have a system in place, you deploy the agents, a very quick task, usually done within a couple of days. You could do it within an hour or so, depending on how quick you can drive to the customer and how quick the VPN or whatever is set up. But typically it takes a couple of days because things have to be negotiated and so on and organized. So very quick, fast deployment, rather the customer installing something by himself and having by himself a professional operation. Usually it's not the customer's business to do management on that environment. Then the customer has the ability to use your professional MSP service management team. And if the system behind is automated, the team will have more time to address customer headaches, whatever, and might even offer more service. I anticipated quite often that the customer says, you as the large telco, you're doing all of that. Could you not extend your service to also monitor my IT virtual servers, some key critical servers? I have critical elements. We have a firewall in there which needs to be monitored. Could you just add that and offer that? And I said, yes, of course we can do, and this is another business opportunity. So to expand into the existing customer, not just new ones. And then pay only for what you needs to be managed, save on service, you can deploy your own management system as a customer or end client, and you will just use partial things of it. But you could also say, I pay for what I do, and when I don't need it anymore, I might cancel the contract or change it or whatever, something like that. So the flexibility is there. And of course, adapt quickly to your service management demands, new things coming up. And finally, of course, talking to business people, CapEx and OpEx is key. That will definitely go down. Also, it will show better up on the account sheet. Giving you an example with one of our customers, they did reduce the zoo of systems, and to come to the point, they did reduce it. The annual OpEx service cost did go down by 65 to 70% just by reducing the zoo. And the only thing, and you see within a fairly short time, they were able to reduce most of the classical management systems. What they are keeping is basically LAN probe type things, or things which are monitoring in, let's say, milliseconds on the network or things like that. But in the meantime, they saved several million euros on just reducing the zoo, nothing else yet, just reducing the zoo. Other point, 5 key benefits for the MSP. What do you as an MSP, what's your benefit about that? And with the StableNet solution, we can enable you to have a very attractive commercial and technical convincing management solution. Secure, technical, it's professional, it's reliable, it's telco grade, and you can also use that on smaller, for instance, Saas customers. And what you can do with that, you can quickly prove and demonstrate your MSP professionality towards the customer. You could go there and deploy, of course, the standalone system also with StableNet. That's always an option that you have. But in many cases, if the customers are smaller, mid-size, whatever, a SaaS model might be a great entry, or even on large corporations, they might just want to monitor their telephony systems, and they could just do that, and from there you could start with doing more on, because customers tend to like your operation, and they say, oh, could you add that and that and that? And of course, ease and reduce your operations efforts and cost by the highly automated solution. If you try to do everything manually, this would fail. I had a lot of experience with telcos who tried to do that, and they came back to us and say, can you help us? These zoo of systems are killing us. And sometimes on large telcos, you have not just dozens, you might have hundreds of them, and it's very difficult to handle that and to stay on track of what you want to offer. Yeah, that basically brings me to the end. Dietmar, any questions which did come in? And I'm happy to ask that also later on in discussions, of course.
All right. Well, thank you very much so far, Peter. I've already thrown in a couple of questions, and we answered a number of them directly in the chat. Just want to mention the third handout I just uploaded to the handout panel. So if you're interested in the slides Peter has used for this webinar, they are available for download now as well. And there was one question that I thought might be interesting for other attendees to hear the answer. It's actually coming from one of our attendees that is already running MSP services, and they have a customer that has a high number of small geographically distributed office sites, and they're looking for a solution on how they can manage that kind of setup. So I don't know if it's hundreds or thousands, but I would assume it is at least a 2 or 3 digit number of office sites. And maybe you could elaborate a bit on how we could address that with StableNet.
Yeah, that's a very good question. We get that quite frequently. And we have actually, since a while, a very good answer on that. Normally, if you want to, take an example, we have customers with bank offices, several thousand, and these bank offices, of course, are usually small. And to put a bigger management agent in there would be an economic challenge. So, just because of the bigger hardware and mainly about that, and also the environment that they have. So we have developed with our team a so-called SNEA, a StableNet Embedded Agent. This is this small banana pies device. It's like in the size of a soapbox, and it is actually a full-blown, from the functionality, a full-blown agent. It can handle just about 100-200 devices. You can do discovery and SNMP monitoring, even all sorts of executing end-to-end service monitoring, and you can deploy that very easily in the small office, and it can be enabled that whenever you just plug it in, it will call back and talk back to your central Saas or management server, StableNet Telco server basically, and from there you can then manage everything within the small office. So, and from the sizing, you can use that because it's very cost efficient. You can use it for thousands, several thousand, even several 10,000 offices, or it might be a bank office. It could be also an industrial site, a pump station, or a TV tower, or a mobile base station, or so, where you want to monitor and discover the infrastructure, and so that is possible, and we have documents on that, of course, to make it short,
Okay, perfect. Yeah, well, I need to cut you a little bit off here, Peter, because we've extended our scheduled time by 8.5 minutes by now. So with your permission, I'm going to close the Q&A session now. And we do have, of course, more web sessions on other StableNet related topics available. If you need help, if you need more information, please feel free to contact us. And we have, thank you for that slide, we have a lot more resources available in the resource section on our website. So if you need some more information, please feel also free to look around there. So thank you again very much, Peter, for the presentation. And I'd like also to thank everyone for joining our session today. As I've mentioned earlier, we have a recording of this webinar. I'm going to make it available to you tomorrow, and you're going to be getting a little email with the appropriate link. We're going to keep the session open for a few more minutes in case anyone from the audience decides to type in another question. So we're going to take care of that with our webinar team in the background. And by the way, don't forget, we're giving away 3 Amazon gift cards on this global webinar day. So please answer the trivia question. That's part of the questionnaire you're going to see when you leave today's webinar. Well, I guess that's all from us today. Thanks again, Peter. Thanks for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.
Yeah, thank you very much for attending from my side, and also thank you very much, Dietmar. So have a great day, and bye-bye then.